The great hall was silent. 12 species sat in a circle, their representatives watching each other with careful eyes. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin that changed color with their mood. But all of them shared one thing: fear. Ambassador Baek-jin stood at the human delegation's table, his hands folded behind his back. He was a small man compared to most aliens in the room. His gray hair was neatly combed, and his suit was simple. Next to the massive creatures around him, he looked almost like a child. But his eyes were calm. Too calm, some would say later. The Vorn Collective has attacked 17 colonies in the past year, said the Mikari delegate, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. They killed over 200,000 civilians. They took resources. They burned cities. And they laughed while doing it. The Reister. One. The room filled with angry voices. The Vorn Collective was a problem that had grown too big. What started as a small group of raiders had become an army. They had ships, they had weapons, and they had no mercy. "We must send our fleets," said another delegate, a creature made mostly of floating gas contained in a metal suit. "Combined, we have over 10 million soldiers. We can crush them and lose half of them in the process," replied the Mikari. "The Vorn control the Dark Nebula. Fighting there would cost us everything." The argument continued for an hour. Plans were made and rejected. Numbers were calculated. The result was always the same. Victory was possible, but the cost would be too high. During all of this, Ambassador Baek stayed quiet. He simply listened, his face showing nothing. Beside him sat Commander Kang Tae-ho, a military officer with a scar running down his left cheek. He was the kind of man who had seen too many battles to count. His eyes moved slowly across the room, studying each alien as if measuring them. Finally, the Mikari delegate turned to the human table. "You have been silent, Ambassador. Does humanity have nothing to say? Your colonies were attacked too." Baek-jin smiled softly. "We have been listening and thinking." "Thinking about what?" "About how many soldiers you believe you need." He paused. "We do not think you need 10 million. The room went quiet. Several delegates looked confused. "Then how many?" asked the gas creature. 8 million? 5? 6, said Baek-jin. 6 million? No. 6. The silence that followed was so deep that you could hear the machines humming in the walls. Then, slowly, laughter began. First, from one delegate, then another. Soon, the whole room was laughing at the small human ambassador. 6 soldiers? The Mikari's voice shook with amusement. Against 50,000 Vorn? Against their fortress? Baek-jin did not laugh. Neither did Commander Kang. The commander slowly stood up, and something about his movement made the laughter fade. He did not look angry. He looked like a man who knew something the others did not. "Allow me to explain," Kang said, his voice low and rough. "In human military history, we have a special type of soldier. We call them special forces. They are not like regular soldiers. They are trained from a young age to do the impossible. They learn to survive where others would die. They learn to fight when they are outnumbered 100 to 1. And they learn to complete their mission, no matter what." The Mikari leaned forward. "Every species has elite soldiers, Commander. That does not make them capable of miracles." "You are right," Kang replied. "But you have not seen what our soldiers can do." He touched a device on his wrist, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. 18 years ago, the Vorn attacked Colony Meridian. It was one of our first colonies in space. They sent 8,000 warriors. The hologram showed a burning city, ships falling from the sky. We could not send help in time. Our fleet was 2 weeks away, but we had 12 soldiers stationed there. Special forces. They were on a training mission. The hologram changed. It showed a group of humans, dirty and bleeding, standing in the ruins of a building. Those 12 soldiers held the colony for 14 days. When our fleet arrived, they found the Vorn army destroyed. Not defeated, destroyed. 8,000 warriors, killed by 12 humans. The room was silent again, but this time no one was laughing. "That is impossible," whispered the gas screecher. 12 against 8,000? "Check the Vorn records," Kang said. "Oh, wait. You cannot. They erased this battle from their history. They were too ashamed to admit what happened." The delegates looked at each other. Some pulled out devices and began searching. After a few minutes, the Mikari spoke again, his voice now uncertain. "There are references, hidden files, survivors who spoke of demons in human skin, soldiers who could not be killed, who moved through the darkness like ghosts." "Those were not demons," said Ambassador Bake, finally standing again. "Those were ordinary humans who refused to give up. And the soldiers we have now are 10 times better." He let the words hang in the air. "We propose sending one team. 6 operators from our Ghost unit. They will infiltrate the Vorn command station. They will eliminate the leadership. And they will do it quietly. We, Quant, we, and if they fail?" asked a delegate from the back. Commander Kang smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. "They will not fail. They have never failed. But I warn you all, when you invite human special forces into a war, you are not just inviting soldiers, you are inviting something that your enemies will have nightmares about for generations." The vote was taken an hour later. The coalition agreed to humanity's plan, but as the delegates left the hall, many of them walked slowly, their minds troubled. They had asked for help. They had received it. But deep in their hearts, they were afraid. Not of the Vorn. Not anymore. They were afraid of what they had just unleashed. And somewhere, on a small blue planet called Earth, 6 soldiers received a message. The wolves had been called. And the galaxy would learn to pray. The elevator went down for 3 full minutes. The alien observer, a Mikari named Torvax, watched the numbers change on the screen. -100, -200, -300 meters below the surface of Earth. "How deep is this facility?" he asked, his forearms crossed nervously. Commander Kang stood beside him, his face calm. When the doors finally opened, Torvax stepped into a world he did not understand. The underground base was massive. Soldiers moved through the corridors with purpose. Training rooms lined the walls, filled with sounds of combat and shouting. The air smelled of sweat and metal. "This is the den," Kang said. "The home of our Special Warfare Command. Only the best of the best train here. And only the best of those become Ghost Unit." Torvax followed the commander through the facility. Everywhere he looked, he saw humans pushing themselves beyond limits. One room had soldiers fighting in complete darkness. Another had them swimming through freezing water with weights attached to their bodies. In a third room, they were solving complex problems while being shot at with rubber bullets. "This is extreme," Torvax said carefully. "This is necessary," Kang replied. "Our enemies do not give us easy conditions, so we do not train in easy conditions." They arrived at a large observation window. Below, a kill house had been set up. It was a maze of rooms and corridors, filled with targets that would pop up randomly. Some targets were enemies, some were civilians. A soldier had to know the difference in less than a second. "Watch," Kang said. A door opened, and a woman entered the kill house. She was not tall, not big. She looked ordinary, like someone you might see walking down any street in any city. Her name was Captain Yoon Hana, and she was the leader of Ghost Unit, A timer started. The first target appeared. Hana's weapon was up before Torvax even saw her move. The target fell. She was already running, flowing through the maze like water. Targets appeared left and right. Enemy, civilian, enemy, enemy, civilian, enemy. She did not miss once. She did not hesitate once. In 43 seconds, she had cleared a course that most soldiers took 3 minutes to complete. That is not possible, Torvax whispered. No being can react that fast. Kang smiled slightly. She is actually having a slow day. Her record is 31 seconds. Over the next several hours, Torvax met the rest of Ghost Unit. Each one terrified him more than the last. Master Sergeant Park Day was the explosives expert. He was a quiet man, with gentle eyes and soft hands. He smiled often and spoke politely. He also knew more ways to destroy a building than Torvax knew words in his language. When Park showed him a bomb small enough to fit in a pocket but powerful enough to take down a starship engine, his hands were steady and calm, as if he was showing off a flower from his garden. Sergeant First Class Lee Su was the sniper. He was thin and patient, with eyes that seemed to look through everything. During a demonstration, he hit a target 3 kilometers away. The target was moving. The wind was changing. There were obstacles in the way. Lee made the shot look easy. "What is the longest shot you have ever made?" Torvax asked him. Lee thought for a moment. "In training or in combat?" "Combat. 4.7 kilometers. Through a sandstorm. The target was an enemy commander. He died before his guards even knew I was there." Staff Sergeant Kim Nari was the technology specialist. She was young, barely 30, with quick fingers and a faster mind. She could hack into any system, break any code, and control any machine. When Torvax asked her if she could breach Vorn security systems, she laughed softly. "I already did," she said. "Just to practice. Their encryption is very basic, like a lock made for children." Sergeant Cho Mina was the medic and close combat specialist. She was small, even for a human, with a kind face and warm smile. But Torvax saw her in the training room, fighting 3 opponents at once. She moved like a dancer, her blade flashing in the light. In seconds, all 3 opponents were on the ground, and she was not even breathing hard. "My job is to keep my team alive," she told Torvax. "But sometimes, that means making sure the enemy dies first." The last member was Sergeant Han Wu, the heavy weapons expert. He was the biggest human Torvax had ever seen. His arms were thick with muscle, and his voice was like thunder. He carried weapons that most soldiers needed 2 people to lift. "I am the loud one," Han said with a grin. "When my team needs a distraction, I give them one. A big one." That night, Torvax sat alone in his room, staring at the wall. He had come to Earth expecting to find impressive soldiers. What he found instead was something else entirely. These humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like forces of nature. Unstoppable, unbreakable, unhuman. He pulled out his communication device and began recording a message to the coalition. "I have observed the human special forces," he said slowly. "I understand now why the Vorn erased their records. These are not soldiers. They are weapons, shaped like people. They smile and laugh and seem friendly. But beneath that surface is something cold and sharp, something that does not stop, something that does not fail." He paused, searching for the right words. "We asked for help against the Vorn, and the humans answered. But I must warn the Council. Be careful what you wish for, because when Ghost Unit arrives at that station, the Vorn will learn what fear truly means. And we will be reminded that the most dangerous species in the galaxy is not the one with the biggest army. It is the one that can win a war with only 6 people." He ended the message and sent it. Then he lay down on his bed and tried to sleep. Tomorrow, the team would leave for the Dark Nebula. Captain Yoon had told him something before he left the facility. Something that still echoed in his mind. When you hear nothing from that station for 3 days, we have succeeded. If you hear screaming, we have also succeeded. He did not sleep well that night. And somewhere deep in the den, 6 wolves prepared for the hunt. The Vorn command station floated in the darkness like a metal moon. It was massive, built over centuries, designed to be unbreakable. 50,000 soldiers lived inside its walls. Thousands of weapons pointed outward at the empty space. Sensors scanned everything within 1,000,000 kilometers. Nothing could approach without being seen. Nothing could enter without being destroyed. At least, that was what the Vorn believed. The small ship drifted through the dark nebula, tumbling slowly like a piece of broken rock. Its engines were cold. Its lights were off. To any sensor, it looked like space debris, just another dead thing floating in the void. But inside, 6 humans sat in silence, breathing slowly, waiting. Captain Yoon Hana checked her equipment one final time. Her weapons were clean. Her suit was sealed. Her mind was empty of everything except the mission. Around her, her team did the same. No one spoke. They did not need to. After years of working together, they could communicate with just a look, a nod, a small hand gesture. 2 minutes to the garbage chute, Kim Nari said softly, her eyes on a small screen. I have looped their sensors. They see nothing but rocks. Yoon nodded. The garbage chute was their entry point. It was a tunnel used to dump waste into space. No soldier would ever use it as an entrance because the radiation levels inside were lethal. The temperature dropped to -80 degrees. There was no oxygen. Any living being would die in minutes. Humans could survive for 20. The ship matched speed with the station, getting closer and closer until it was almost touching the metal surface. A hatch opened, silently. One by one, the team floated out into the frozen darkness. Yoon went first. The cold hit her immediately, even through her suit. Her breathing mask gave her limited air. Her skin burned from the radiation seeping through the thin material. She ignored it all. Pain was just information. Information could be processed later. The team entered the garbage chute and began to climb. The tunnel was narrow and dark, filled with frozen waste and sharp metal edges. They moved quickly, but carefully, pulling themselves upward, meter by meter. Around them, the station hummed with life, completely unaware of the wolves entering its belly. 18 minutes later, they emerged inside the station. A maintenance corridor, empty and quiet. Kim Nari immediately connected to a wall panel and began working. Her fingers danced across hidden buttons. Numbers and symbols flashed across her screen. I am in their system, she whispered. Patrol schedules, camera locations, door codes, everything. Send the routes to everyone, Yoon ordered. Park, start placing charges at the marked locations. Lee, find your position. Han and Mina, you are with me. We move in 10 minutes. The team split apart, each member becoming a shadow in the vast station. Park Day moved through the lower levels with the patience of a man who had all the time in the world. He planted his explosives with artistic care. One charge here, to cut power to the eastern section. Another there, to collapse a corridor and trap 3,000 soldiers away from the action. He worked silently, invisible, deadly. The guards walked past him without ever knowing he was there. Lee Soo climbed higher and higher through the ventilation system. His body squeezed through spaces that should have been too small for a human, but he had trained for years to bend his bones, to slow his heartbeat, to become almost liquid when needed. He found his spot, a small opening that looked down at the command center, 3 kilometers away through a maze of metal and glass. He set up his rifle and waited. He was very good at waiting. Yoon, Han, and Mina moved toward the center of the station. They encountered their first patrol after 5 minutes. 4 Vorn soldiers, armed and alert. The humans pressed against the walls, still as statues. The Vorn walked past them. They did not see the shadows. They did not feel the death standing so close. But killing them silently would be a problem. The patrol had to report in every 10 minutes. If they disappeared, an alarm would sound. Mina solved the problem. She studied their communication devices, then whispered to Nari through her earpiece. Seconds later, the Vorn's radios began to malfunction. The soldiers stopped, confused, trying to fix their equipment. They never saw Mina move. Her blade was a flash of silver in the dim light. 4 bodies fell without a sound. She caught each one before they hit the ground, laying them gently against the wall as if putting children to sleep. Patrol eliminated, she whispered. 4 hostiles down. No alarm. They continued forward. The Vorn began to notice something was wrong. Guards stopped reporting in. Doors opened and closed on their own. Cameras glitched and showed empty corridors that should have had soldiers in them. A feeling of unease spread through the station like a disease. The commander, a massive Vorn with scars covering his face, watched the reports coming in with growing anger. "Find them," he ordered. "Lock down the station. Nothing gets in or out." But it was already too late. The wolves were already inside, and they had been hunting for over an hour. Yoon reached the final corridor before the command center. Through a small window, she could see the 12 members of the Vorn High Council sitting around a table, arguing about the lockdown. They thought they were safe. They thought their walls would protect them. She checked her weapon. She looked at Han and Mina. They nodded back. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the station. She activated a communication device that broadcast to every speaker, every screen, every corner of the massive fortress. "This is Ghost Unit of the Human Special Forces." Her voice echoed through the halls. "Your leaders will be dead in 6 minutes. Surrender. Or join them." For one long second, the station was silent. Then chaos erupted. 50,000 Vorn soldiers began running toward the command center, screaming for blood. Alarms wailed. Lights flashed red. The entire station became a storm of bodies and weapons. And in the middle of it all, 6 humans smiled. The hunt was over. The killing was about to begin. The first explosion came 7 seconds after Yoon's announcement. Park Day's charges went off in perfect order, each blast timed to the heartbeat. The station shook. Lights died. Walls collapsed. In an instant, 15,000 Vorn soldiers found themselves trapped behind mountains of twisted metal, screaming and clawing at barriers they could not break. "Eastern section sealed," Park reported calmly. "Western section in 3, 2, 1. Another explosion. Another section cut off. The 50,000 soldiers who wanted to kill 6 humans suddenly became 20,000. Then 15. Then 10. Park had turned the mighty fortress into a maze of cages, and the Vorn did not even understand what was happening. But 10,000 soldiers was still more than enough to overwhelm a small team. The corridors around the command center filled with Vorn warriors, all of them running toward the humans with murder in their eyes. They met Chomina first. She stood alone in a narrow passage, the only route to the command center from the north. Her blade was in her right hand. A small pistol was in her left. She looked tiny against the wave of massive alien soldiers rushing toward her. The first Vorn reached her and swung his weapon. She was not there. She had already moved, sliding under his arm, her blade opening his throat as she passed. The second Vorn died before the first hit the ground. The third, the fourth, the fifth. She became a storm of steel and motion. Every move was perfect. Every cut was deadly. Bodies piled around her like fallen leaves. The Vorn pushed forward, stepping over their dead, and still she held the line. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Her arm was bleeding. Her breath was getting short, but her eyes remained calm, focused, cold. She was not fighting for survival. She was fighting for time. Every second she held this corridor was a second her team could use. 4 minutes. The pile of bodies was now a wall. The Vorn had to climb over their own dead to reach her. And still, she stood. In the ventilation shaft above the command center, Li Su began his work. His eye pressed against his rifle's scope. His finger rested gently on the trigger. 3 kilometers of metal and glass separated him from his targets. But to him, they might as well have been standing in front of him. The first shot punched through 17 obstacles and entered a Vorn general's skull. He was dead before the sound reached anyone's ears. The second shot killed an admiral. The third killed a fleet commander who was trying to run. Li worked without emotion. Each shot was a math problem. Distance, angle, wind resistance, material density. He solved each problem in a fraction of a second, then moved to the next. The leaders of the Vorn collective began dropping like puppets with cut strings. Inside the command center, panic had taken hold. The 12 High Council members screamed at their guards, demanding protection. But their guards were dying. Invisible death came through walls and ceilings and floors. No one could find the shooter. No one could stop him. Outside the main door, Han Wu provided the distraction Yoon needed. He stood in the widest corridor, his massive weapon, spitting fire into the endless waves of enemies. The gun was so large it needed a support structure attached to his armor. The sound was deafening. The heat melted the metal walls around him. "Come on," he roared, laughing as the Vorn fell before him. "I have enough for all of you." He was not trying to kill them all. He just needed to keep them focused on him, while Yoon and Kim Nari entered the command center from above. They dropped through a ceiling panel, landing silently among the chaos. The remaining council members saw them and screamed. Guards turned. Weapons rising. Yoon was faster. Her first shot took out the guard closest to her. Her second killed the one behind him. She moved through the room like water, never stopping, never slowing. Nari covered her back, her own weapon dropping anyone who tried to approach from behind. "Wait," one of the council members cried out. He was older than the others, his scales gray with age. "We can negotiate. We have resources. We have information." Yoon stopped in front of him. For a moment, there was silence. "You raided human colonies," she said softly. "You killed human children. You burned human homes." She raised her weapon. "There is no negotiation." The shot echoed through the room. The council member fell. Exactly 6 minutes after her announcement, Yoon stood in the center of the command room. Around her lay the bodies of the 12 most powerful leaders of the Vorn collective. The mission was complete. "All targets eliminated," she reported through her earpiece. "Begin exit." The team moved like ghosts through the chaos. The station was burning now. Park's deeper charges, igniting fuel reserves and weapon storages. Vorn soldiers ran in every direction. No longer trying to fight, just trying to survive. No one commanded them anymore. No one told them what to do. Mina fell back from her corridor, her body covered in blood that was mostly not hers. She limped slightly, but did not slow down. Han retreated from his position, his weapon finally cooling. Li disappeared from his ventilation shaft like smoke. They met at the extraction point, a small airlock on the station's lowest level. A stealth ship was waiting for them, invisible to all sensors, its engines warming up. As they boarded, a single Vorn soldier stumbled into the corridor. He was young, barely an adult by his species standards. His weapon was broken. His eyes were filled with terror. He looked at Yoon Hana as she stepped onto the ship. She was walking calmly through the smoke and fire, her face peaceful, her movements unhurried. Behind her, the station was dying. Around her, enemies fell without her even looking at them. The young Vorn raised his recording device with shaking hands. He did not know why. He just felt that someone needed to see this. Someone needed to know what had happened here. The image he captured would spread across the galaxy within days. It showed a small human woman walking through hell, as if it was a garden. It showed death following her like a loyal pet. It showed the face of humanity's special forces. They called it the Walk, and for generations, it would appear in the nightmares of anyone who thought about attacking humanity. The ship disappeared into the darkness. Behind it, the Vorn command station burned. 6 humans had done in 6 minutes what fleets could not do in 6 years, and the galaxy would never forget. 3 months had passed since the fall of the Vorn command station. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. The Vorn Collective was gone. Without their leadership, the factions turned on each other like hungry animals. Wars broke out between former allies. Fleets destroyed each other over scraps of power. Within weeks, the Great Collective had become nothing more than scattered groups of survivors, hiding in the dark corners of space, afraid to show their faces. The coalition had won without losing a single ship. Ambassador Baek Jin stood before the Galactic Assembly, the same hall where he had first offered humanity's help. But the room felt different now. The delegates looked at the human table with new eyes. There was respect there, and fear, and something else that might have been wonder. On behalf of the Interstellar Coalition, the Makari delegate announced, "We wish to honor the human soldiers who achieved the impossible. We invite Ghost Unit to receive the highest medal our civilization can offer." Baek smiled politely. Ghost Unit sends their apologies. They are unable to attend. Unable? But this is the greatest honor in galactic history. They are already on another mission, Baek said simply. There is always another mission. Commander Kang Tae-ho stepped forward to accept the medal on their behalf. He moved slowly to the center of the hall, his old bones aching but his spirit still strong. The delegates watched him in silence. "You asked me once," Kang began, "why humans created special forces. Why we trained soldiers to do what seems impossible. I would like to answer that question now. Absaventi, with..." He looked around the room, meeting each delegate's eyes. "Long ago, before we reached the stars, humans fought each other. We had many wars, terrible wars. And in those wars, we learned something important. We learned that sometimes you do not need an army. Sometimes you need something smaller, something sharper, something that can cut through the darkness and strike at the heart of evil." He held up the medal, letting it catch the light. "Special forces exist because we believe in protecting the innocent. We believe that no matter how big the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, there is always a way, and we will find it. We will walk through fire. We will crawl through poison. We will give everything we have, because that is what protectors do." He lowered the medal. Ghost Unit did not fight for glory. They did not fight for medals. They fought because there were families who deserved to live without fear. They fought because someone had to, and they were the best at it. Way, and way. The room was completely silent. "So when you look at humanity," Kang continued, "do not be afraid. We are kind. We are curious. We love to make friends and share our culture. We want nothing more than peace and cooperation with all species." He paused. "But know this. If you threaten our people, if you hurt the innocent, if you bring darkness into the light, we will send our wolves, and they will find you. No matter where you hide, no matter how strong your walls, they will find you." He placed the medal in his pocket and walked back to the human table. No one applauded. No one moved. The weight of his words hung in the air like a heavy cloud. The ceremony ended quietly. Delegates returned to their homeworlds with stories that would become legends. In the months that followed, strange things began to happen across the galaxy. Pirate fleets that had terrorized trade routes for centuries suddenly disbanded. Their leaders sent messages explaining that they were retiring. No reason was given, but everyone knew the truth. They had seen the walk. They had heard the stories, and they wanted no part of what would happen if they continued. Hostile species added new rules to their first contact protocols. Do not provoke humanity became official policy for a dozen governments. Some species moved their borders farther from human space, just to be safe. A young alien child on a distant world asked her mother a question one night. Why are humans so scary? Her mother thought for a long moment before answering. Humans are not scary, little one. They are actually very kind. They create beautiful art and music. They laugh often and love deeply. They share their food with strangers and help those in need. Then why does everyone seem afraid of them? Because they protect their own, her mother said softly. They protect the weak and the innocent. And when they do, even the stars look away. The child did not fully understand. But years later, when she was grown, she would remember those words. She would remember them when she met her first human, a friendly merchant who gave her a sweet candy and taught her a song from Earth. She would remember them when she heard news of another threat defeated by human special forces somewhere in the galaxy. And she would understand. On Earth, in a small Korean restaurant in a city called Seoul, 6 people sat around a table. They looked ordinary. They wore simple clothes. They laughed at jokes and argued about which sauce was better for their meat. No one watching would ever guess what they were capable of. Captain Yoon Hana finished her drink and checked her communicator. A new message had arrived. Another mission. Another impossible task. Let me guess, Park Dae said, not looking up from his food. Someone else needs saving. A research station at the edge of explored space. Yoon replied. Pirates took it over. 50. Hostages. How many pirates? Lee Soo asked. 300. Han Wu laughed. Only 300? We will be home for dinner. 2. 2. Chomina rolled her eyes. You say that every time. And every time, I am right. Kim Nari was already pulling up information on her tablet. I found their network. Weak security. I can have their systems under our control before we even arrive. Yoon looked at her team. Her family. These 5 people had followed her into hell more times than she could count. They had bled together. They had suffered together. They had done things that would give normal people nightmares. And they would do it all again, as many times as necessary, because that was who they were. Finish your food, she said. We leave in 1 hour. The team ate quickly, paid their bill, and walked out into the night. They disappeared into the shadows of the city. 6 ordinary people with extraordinary purpose. Above them, the stars shone coldly. Somewhere out there, pirates were celebrating their victory, unaware that death was already on its way. Somewhere out there, hostages were praying for rescue, hoping that someone would hear them. Someone had heard. The wolves were coming, and the galaxy remembered why it prayed they would never appear. But when they did appear, it was always for the right reasons. Always for the innocent. Always for justice. That was humanity's gift to the universe. Not just the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when destruction was necessary. Not just the power to fight, but the heart to fight for others. The stars might look away when human special forces went to work, but the protected would always look toward them. With hope, with gratitude, with love. Because the wolves were not monsters. They were guardians. And guardians never rest.